We previously created this Geneva cam. However, we didn't create the drawing paper that it goes on. So today we're going to go ahead and finish that up. And we're going to create a new template for that. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by using our layout template. So go ahead and open your layers template that you previously done. I already have mine open. So if you need to, go ahead and pause the video for a second while you go ahead and open that. The first thing we need to do is we need to add one additional layer here. We need to add a title block lettering layer. So we're going to go ahead and open our layers, add a new layer, label it title block lettering. Make it green, the same color as the title block. Hit OK. Now, if the line weight for the title block was default, we could just use the title block and not add a separate layer. But we do need to add a separate layer because we want a default line weight for the title block lettering. Okay, so once that's done, we can go ahead and close this. Now, we're actually going to do this not in the model space, but in the layout space. So go ahead and click your layout 1 down here in the lower left-hand corner. And you're going to open up this white space. And within that white space, you should see this block. If you don't see this block, don't worry about it. This is called a viewport, and we'll talk about this after we finish the layout page. So go ahead and click this. Click the outside edge, and you should see something like that. And go ahead and click delete. We're actually going to just delete it. The next thing I want you to do is come over to this layout tab, right click, and then open up the page setup manager. Within layout 1, click on modify, and you just want to check your settings. So you want to be set up for a printer, obviously, and for us, I'm going to just set up for an Adobe PDF printer. You can do the same. Any printer is actually fine. But you want to make sure you're set up for a letter. Letter size is 8.5 by 11. This is also called A size. Document sizes are labeled A, B, C, D, and E. So to go from A size to B size is 11 by 17. How do we get to 11 by 17? What we do is we take the 11 from 8.5 by 11. That becomes the short side of the next size. And the 8.5 doubles, that becomes the long size. So we're 8.5 by 2 times 8.5 or 17. 11 by 17. The next size is the C size. So the C size from 11 by 17, we take our 11 and double it. That will become our long edge. The 17 will become the short edge. So our next size, the C size, will be 17 by 2 times 11, 17 by 22. That's C. So then, by the same method, our D size becomes 22 by 2 times 17, 22 by 34. And then our E size becomes 34 by 2 times 22, 34 by 44. F size does not follow. This F size, I'm not sure how it... Oh, that's architectural A. F size is 40 by 28. I'm not really sure where that comes from. Architectural sizes are a little bit bigger. So it's not 8.5 by 11, it's 9 by 12. I believe that's because they print on 8.5. Actually, they print on 8.75 by 11.75. I think they use the full 8.5 by 11 for actual drawing. So even though they have a print area, they print the outside portion of the drawing page, and the actual drawing size itself is 8.5 by 11. But I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, we want to print on a letter size or an A size. So you can choose either letter if you have it or ANSI A if you have it. Everyone potentially might have a different printer to select. We want to plot our layout. Our scale should be 1:1. Drawing orientation is landscape. Landscape orientation means that the long edge is along the X or horizon. The short edge is the Y or the up and down the vertical. And this generally corresponds to most of the monitors that we tend to be using. Plot style. Generally we choose none. If you're using a plotter, you might choose one of the AutoCAD pens or one of these pen settings. If you have a monochrome printer, you probably need to choose monochrome. Generally, grayscale is not used, and the reason for that is colors in grayscale will come out in different shades. So something that's yellow will be barely visible on a white piece of paper. It'll be a very light shade of gray. So generally you want monochrome as opposed to grayscale, although I'm sure there are exceptions to that. Okay, so anyway, you want to be sure you're 8.5 by 11. And if you're not, you'll find out very quickly in the next step. So go ahead and click OK, and then click Close. And then we want to just start creating our title block page. So we're going to go into the title block, and again, we're going to take a quick look at our drawing here. We don't know the size of this, but if you're using your book, you can look on page 712 and you'll see that it's 10.25 by 7.75. Generally, you never can use the complete page, and you know this. You run into the same issue in Word. You can't use your complete 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So we're going to start with a rectangle that's 10.25 by 7.75. So we'll drop this down. Rectangle will start in the lower right-hand corner here, and then we'll just type 10.25, comma 7.75, and hit return. And then we just want to move this so that it's centered. And I think I did erase. Put it back. Want to move it so that it's centered in the area, roughly, like so. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to create the bottom lines. There's a 0.25 inch step of the line above the bottom. So we choose a line, we start here, we start moving up, type 0.25, hit enter, and then slide the line all the way across to the other side. We can then use offset at 0.25 to create a second line and move it up. We then need some vertical separations in these lines. So at 2.35, we're going to create a line up. So we're going to start here. I'm not hitting my mouse button yet. Type 2.35, hit return, take a line up, and here I can now use offset. I would want an offset of 2.3. Click here and move that over, and then I want another offset of 2.3. And then I want an offset of 1.2. 1.2. Okay, so now above these two lines, we just have another line that goes all the way up. So we can just do a copy. Create those two. And then we have another line that's 3.2 inches over from here. So we can do one more offset. 2. And we select here and move back. There. Okay, so now we have all our lines in. We need to put text in. So we can choose our text tool up here. And what we can do is make a box. And then we get our text box here. And we have a text size. I'm going to change the text size to 0.125, which I've learned is a pretty good size. And then I'm going to, and if you notice, I started the text up here. dr by colon. I'm going to drop the size down. Do I want to save the text changes? Yes. Okay, so what I'm going to do, you can go ahead and do a whole bunch of text boxes. But what I find is it's actually easier to do a bunch of copies and copy specify second point. I'm not sure why I didn't do that second copy. If I select that and I do copy, it doesn't, for some reason it doesn't like me doing multiple copies. I'm not quite sure why. So let's try it this way. If I do a copy that way, see if that will allow me to do it. And it looks like it does. I'm going to move over here. Oh, we have one there that we don't need. So we still have 1, 2. I'll put this here. Then we move this one. Over there. Oh, it looks like we have a few here. And let's just see where we're at. We can delete that. And actually we don't need this here. Okay, so once we do this and place all these, we can then just modify the text. So the first one is drawn by, and then this is checked by. This becomes CK, and this becomes approved by AP, and then we have sheet, scale, date, and drawing. Sheet, scale, date, drawing. We can move this over so they line up. And let's just confirm. Sheet scale, date, drawing number. And if you get a double line like that, just means your text box is too small. So if you make your text box a little bigger, a fit. And we need to either make it all capital, like so. So now we can go and expand this. And our sheet is done. We could use line width. And actually, you see what I just did? I put all the text in the title block incorrectly. I should have changed that to title block lettering. So I can go ahead and select, 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 select. Make it all title block lettering. Check that again. For some reason I missed one. Let us turn that off. We click on here. And it may be that I have two there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move. I do have two there, so let's see which one I moved. I moved the wrong one. Like I had more than two there. I'm going to put this one back. Blow it up so I can place it in the right spot. And there we have our drawing. Okay, so you should go ahead and save this as a new template. So we should do save as AutoCAD drawing template. And then I'm saving it not there, but in my class directory. And I'm going to save it to A-size mechanical drawing. Already exists. Do I want to replace it? Yes, I do. And I changed the name, layers template for ENGT 107. Mechanical drawing. With page, because now we have the page layout, and probably type A size with A size page layout. Okay, so that is done. Now, what if we wanted to move this and use this with our previously done drawing? How could we do that? It's actually very easy. I'm going to show you how. So let's go ahead and open up our GenCam. And ENGT 107. And my GenCam is this one. So here's my GenCam. What I can do is I can go to my drawing template, go into my layout page. Actually, before we do that, let's first go into our Geneva cam. Click on the layout. You should see this. You may or may not see the grid. Whether or not you see the grid just depends on whether your grid is on or off. So if I turn my grid off when I go to my layout, and I'm not sure why, but sometimes it takes or actually I think the grid, it may be that the grid will show up until you change something. Oh, now the grid is gone. Nope, it's still there. Okay. Anyway, what I want you to do, go ahead and delete that. Delete so you have nothing there. So you should click on that viewport and completely delete it. And again, this is in the Geneva cam. Now, go back to your model space and make sure that your model is still here. If you've lost your model, hit Control Z. And actually, let me very quickly undo. I'm going to go back to where I was, and I want to explain that. You click on the outside edge. This chooses the viewport and delete. What you do not want to do is something like this. Excuse me. You do not want to do something like this. Go inside where you see wireframe and then come in here and delete. Because if you do that, that is real. You are physically deleting what's in the model space. So please do not do that. You will not be happy. You need to click outside the area to exit, and then click on the edge to select the viewport. Then type delete, or hit the delete key. That completely deletes the viewport. The reason I had you delete the viewport is because we're going to add it back in a minute. It's not 100% necessary, but it's necessary to better understand the viewport. Alright, so we're going to go back to our mechanical drawing. I do apologize if you can hear that humming noise in the background. They're doing some construction underneath me. So we're going to go back to the viewport, and I'm going to show you how to easily take this drawing and bring it over to the next page. Control A. You know about Control C and Control V, copy and paste. Control A is select everything. So that will allow you to select everything. Control C will then copy it. So I hit Control A, then Control C, and now I can go over to my Geneva cam in my layout space. If you haven't already done it, and we should check this, go to your page setup manager, go to your layout, make sure you're set up for a printer with a letter paper size, 8.5 by 11 paper size, 1:1 scale, plotting to a layout with a landscape. Go ahead and hit OK and hit close. Come back here, hit Control C. Oh, excuse me, I hit Control. I said Control C, I meant Control V. Control V is paste. You don't want to copy, you want to paste. And then center this. That gives you the drawing outline on this document. So you could use this to go back into your old documents and put the drawing sheet in. The next thing we want to do is we want to add that viewport. So to add the viewport, we come up to View, we choose Viewport, we choose New Viewport, Single Viewport, we hit OK, we come down to the lower corner. Now, you may need to turn off object snap. So that you can place it anywhere. Because you want the viewport not on the green lines, you want them in between, you want it within the border. The viewport should be just a little bit smaller than your lines. Just like so. And then hit. Actually, before I do that, we should do this in our viewport layer. So view, viewports, new viewport, single, OK. Click on the lower left-hand corner, go up to the upper right, hit my mouse key. It puts my viewport in, and then it automatically puts in the extents of the drawing. So it puts in the whole drawing, basically. Now, if I click on my viewport, I see this downward arrow on this little block. So I could stretch it or move it according to the little square. Now in the downward arrow, I could change the scale here. So if I made it 1:1, you'd see it gets much bigger. And actually the whole viewport gets much bigger. And that's really a bad idea, right? Because we don't want it that big. If I made it, what do we have here? We have 6 inches to 1 foot. That makes it 1/2 to 1. That's not a bad scale. So that's one way to change the scale. The other way to change the scale is after we select the viewport, is we can go into the Properties tab. And in the Properties tab, so let me move this out of the way here. We have the scale here. We have annotation scale and standard scale. And we have all these various scales that we can select. So if I make 3 inches to 1 foot, so that scale is 1/4. This is the scale that would be too big. I can choose whatever scale I want. I can choose a custom scale. So let's say I want it a little bigger. Instead of a half scale, I want it 3/4 scale. I can make it 0.75 and see if that fits. Now, if I do that, however, my annotation scale needs to change. So that everything fits properly. Because at 6 inches to a foot, everything is too big. At 3 inches to a foot, everything is too small. So that doesn't necessarily help us out. So we'll leave that as 0.5. So you can play around with the scales. If you need to, you can change the dimensions, the sizes of the text. So we could go into our format dimension style, modify text. Is this And let's see where this is. Text height, fraction height scale, no. Fit. Use overall dimension scale. So if we make this, I believe if we make this larger, so let's set this to 1.5. Yeah, the numbers got bigger when we made it larger. So we set it to 1.5, and that was in new style. And we see that these numbers get larger. And we could go back and do the other style as well. We can do our standard style. Also set that to 1.5. And now you can see all the text is larger. Now you can also see here how, because of that, we lost a little bit of the 8 over there. So we may need to expand our viewport a little bit. Now, because this text used text size, here we would have to actually change the text size if we wanted this larger. Now, if we had other drawings here, we could adjust this viewport so we were only looking at certain portions. For instance, if I only wanted to look at this portion of the drawing, then I could double-click inside and slide this over here like that, and then double-click outside again, click on my viewport, and then move my viewport so that I'm only looking at this one piece. And then if I did that, I would want to center it. Make sure that it's well centered within my drawing. That's roughly centered. I might actually take measurements and see that it's well centered. In which case, what I would actually move this over to here. And then I could get a measure line and check, say, distance. Specify, say, a point from there to there, 3.138, and then a point from roughly here to there, 3.39. So I could move this over just a little bit, about 0.1 inches or so. And that's it being that's a stretch, not a move. So you could move this around. You could move this around as needed in order to set it up and center it. And you could argue where you could definitely have arguments about where the center is, because you may say, Hey, wait a minute, Professor L. I really want to center it by, and let me put object snap on, by, say, this center point here, in which case right there I'm 4.92, and over here 5.33. So I'm about 0.4 inches, so I'd want to go about 0.2 inches this way. If I click on my viewport. And I do a move from here. And I move it by 0.2 inches. And that roughly centers. And you could again do the same thing in the Y dimension. We could dead center. Up is 3.44 and down is 3.80. So 0.35, so you could actually bring it down by 0.17. And again, I'm centering to this line, so I'm centering it within the white space, not necessarily within the paper. So again, I select, I move, I just decide where I'm moving it from. And I get a tracking line, I type 0.17. And then that's, again, we're not centering the viewport itself, because the viewport we could make larger or smaller. You know, we could move this all the way up to here and move the other side all the way down. But I haven't deleted the other half of the drawing. I've just adjusted my viewport so you can't see it. So those are the tools you can use within viewport. Again, if I wanted to bring out the whole viewport, I could just stretch this right back. And I want to turn off my snap. So I can make it smaller than the actual drawing. And here I can double click to go inside. So when you're inside, you'll see this 2D wireframe. And then move it around to center. And just remember, when you're done, you should make sure your scale is set properly. So you come back out, click. So see here it's custom scale 0.495. So that's not okay. 0.5. And again, there isn't much of a difference, but you want to make it correct. And then down here, we should actually fill it in. So in title block lettering, we should go to text. Put in a little block here. We should choose 0.125 and then enter one-half scale. And we didn't do that in the correct layer. So we select it and turn it to title block lettering. And adjust it. Okay, so that's how we use viewports. So you should save this drawing, and I'm going to have you hand in the Geneva cam with the sheet and the viewport. And that's the end of this video.